Welcome in and welcome back. Here we are in 2021, and last year I went ahead and debuted this channel and exposed all of the goals that I had. Well, not all the goals, but a lot of the goals that I had personally on this channel in a 2020 goals video. And I thought I would do it again this year, but I thought I would take a step back from the numbers of goals that I am putting on the channel in order to more thoroughly focus on the goals that I have set in this video on this channel. I know that sounds a little bit confusing, it seems a little bit asinine, but really what I'm doing is highlighting some of the goals that I have set for myself this year that I may, in fact, journey through those goals on this channel in real time as things pass. Last year, so one of the things I do is I break my life down into sections, and I set a myriad of goals in those sections. For example, reading and education. And I'll set 50 goals for the year in reading and education. Writing. And I'll set 50 goals as a writer for the year. I have cut the number of goals back on this video that I am highlighting. But let's just get right into things. So here's something that I found and I thought was interesting and might be worth sharing. There is actually scientific efficacy to the goal-setting process. It is not simply something that the weirdos amongst us decide to do a few times a year and see if we can follow through. This, it turns out, there is something called goal-setting theory, and I went ahead and stole this straight from the Wikipedia page about it. And as we all know, Wikipedia is the most trusted site on the internet, but it reads as such. The theory states that the simplest, most direct motivational explanation of why some people perform better than others is because they have different performance goals. The essence of the theory is fourfold. First, difficult specific goals lead to significantly higher performance than easy goals, no goals, or even the setting of an abstract goal such as urging people to do their best. Second, holding ability constant, as this is a theory of motivation, and given that there is goal commitment, the higher the goal, the higher the performance. Third, variables such as praise, feedback, or involvement of people in decision-making only influences behavior to the extent that it leads to the setting of and commitment to a specific difficult goal. Fourth, goal setting, in addition to affecting the three mechanisms of motivation, namely choice, effort, and persistence, can also have a cognitive benefit. It can influence choice, effort, and persistence to discover ways to attain the goal. I thought that this was interesting to find out because it's something that I think we all sort of intuit on a personal level, that if you, what is the old phrase? Aim for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll be among the stars, right? So long as, or what's the other one? If you, oh, it's one that Arnold Schwarzenegger uses all the time. If you set out on the seas, it doesn't matter how big or fancy your boat is. Without a destination, you'll never get there. Something like that. I can't remember exactly. But it's a great quote, and you should look it up because it's motivational for the goal-setting process. But yeah, I thought that it was interesting that there is actually a lot of research done on this, and that it is something that does, in fact, have scientific efficacy. Along those lines, the best method that I have found for the goal-setting process is something called a SMART goal, S-M-A-R-T, which stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. Herein, ultimately, the time-based part is going to be within the year 2021. But when breaking these things down on a month-by-month basis, it becomes different. It becomes the monthly unit, which then becomes the weekly unit, or the daily unit, depending on how far and meticulously you want to break things down. So, for example, if I say I want to write 120 poems this year, that breaks down to 10 per month. That is a great way of setting smaller goals from the big goals. Relevant, and so further, once you break it down into 10 goals per or 10 poems per month, how many are you writing on the weekly basis? So you have to, when I say you have to, it helps me a great deal to break things down piece by piece like this. I'm taking these backwards. Relevant, why would I want to write 120 poems this year? I want to write 120 poems this year because I consider myself a writer, and writing is one of the things that I want to do with my life. So because of that, it is important to focus on the writing. It is relevant to the direction that I want to go. An irrelevant goal for me would be to, at some point, sink 100 straight free throws. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense with any of my goals, whether that is a fitness goal, whether that is a concentration goal, whether that is just any type of goal that I have. Sinking 100 straight free throws would simply be a distraction and would be absolutely worthless to the life that I am trying to lead. And the life that I am trying to lead is the reason for setting goals in the first place. Attainable. It would not make sense for me to say that I want to write 1,000 poems this year. Why? Because that's 3 poems per day. That wouldn't lead to productivity in any other facet of life. You would simply be writing poetry all the livelong day, especially if you thought you were going to get through anything worth reading, right? You're not going to sit down and write 3 poems per day and have any of them be worth very much at all. Measurable, like I said, is basically you want to write 120 poems this year. It's measurable that you can do that. Not, like we saw in that previous slide, something so nebulous as treat people better. Quote unquote, treat people better, while that might be productive to your life, is a terrible goal because you can't measure it. You can't sit down and say, I treated people 13% better this month. My goal is to treat people 17% better. There is a net difference of 5% between where I am treating people better and the betterness to which I would like to treat people. That is not a measurable goal. Specific. So this is one that always gives me trouble. Specific versus measurable. I think that they are sort of interlinked. I think that they are sort of very much related to one another. But when you're talking about specific versus measurable, specific means, okay, not I want to write 500 words a day. That's not quite specific enough. That level of specificity can play into your larger goals, but your larger goal should be specific to the point of, I want to write 2 novels this year. That is the level of specificity that I think is being talked about in the quote-unquote SMART goals. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. I have here a quote from Joseph Campbell in The Hero with a Thousand Faces, from The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And it is essentially a quote about the importance of ceremony. Ceremony is something that I think we have gotten very far away from in modern society, and I have certainly gotten very far away from in my own life. The only real ceremony that I have left in my life is the ceremony of goal setting, because the ceremony of goal setting is a little bit like a phoenix rising from the ashes. You are signaling the end of one life, in this case the end of 2020, and the beginning of another life, in this case the beginning of 2021. And what we're doing when we're setting goals is saying that the person who lives in my body in the year 2021 is going to hold these values and do these things for the person who will live in my body in 2022. That is something that is as important a ceremony as I think we have. But this quote leads from ceremony into something else which I think is fairly important, especially to the way that I set goals. So I'll just read the quote. The tribal ceremonies of birth, initiation, marriage, burial, installation, and so forth serve to translate the individual's life crises and life deeds into classic, impersonal forms. They disclose him to himself, not as this personality or that, but as the warrior, the bride, the widow, the priest, the chieftain, at the same time rehearsing for the rest of the community the old lesson of the archetypal stages. Here we have the invocation of ceremony and archetype. Why are these things necessary? Essentially, I believe these things are both necessary because they are quintessentially human. Humans have ceremony. Humans are storytellers. Storytelling leads to archetypal stages. Storytelling leads to the adoption of archetypes. Storytelling leads to the invention of archetypes. Now, I think Jung would have a little bit of a problem with this because I don't think Jung would corroborate the fact that archetypes are invented, but that they are in fact inherent. I disagree. I think that these things are invented, and we can tap into them, we can fall out of them, and we can tap back into them. And setting goals is a better way, is, in my opinion, the best way to tap back in to an archetypal process. Here are my personal archetypes for the goals that I will be putting on display in this video, for the goals that I will be making public through this channel for this year. They are the writer, the scholar, the athlete, the financier, and essentially the YouTuber. I'm going to be putting on display my writing goals, 20 of them? I don't remember exactly the number right now. We're going to get to it in a second. But writing goals, goals for education and learning, goals as far as fitness / some type of athleticism, anything that I have left in this 35-year-old corpulent body that I have. Financier, and the Joe Roganer. That is Emily Dickinson for the writer, Christopher Hitchens for the scholar, David Goggins for the athlete, Andrew Carnegie for the financier, and Joe Rogan for the Joe Roganer. Why do I do this? Why do I take pictures, collect pictures from the internet of people who inspire me in these different facets of life? Because I think that it helps to have that personal archetype to go to inspire me. So what I do is I have pictures of several writers, Emily Dickinson, William Faulkner, Charles Bukowski, Ernest Hemingway, at the top of my sheet where my writer's goals are. And when I'm feeling down or I'm feeling like writing isn't worth it, just seeing those people reminds me that writing is transcendent. Emily Dickinson, though she died decades ago, has spoken directly to me. And that matters. So pursuing writing matters. Pursuing literature matters. The act of writing, the act of words on page is important. It is very easy for me to become woe is me at some point during the year and decide I'm just not a writer anymore. This is all masturbatory. It's just me leaking ink onto dead trees. That is not, however, what it is. It is possible for me to reach into something which is transcendent through the act of writing. Christopher Hitchens inspires me to the scholarly because of how fiercely intelligent he was, and he never met an argument he was not willing to make. That is inspiring to me. David Goggins, well, David Goggins just is very Goggins. Andrew Carnegie, the financier. Andrew Carnegie. I don't know the exact story, but basically he said he was rich. He was rich. Stinking rich, stupid rich, filthy rich. And he said to any city west of the Mississippi, if you build the library, I'll provide the books. That's the type of rich which is inspiring. That's the type of rich which sort of melts your brain. Joe Rogan, as far as what it means to be a YouTuber, that's inspiring because Joe Rogan became bigger than the platform itself. So big, in fact, other platforms were clamoring for a little bit of Joe Rogan, and one outright bought him out. One outright bought him out for what is purportedly $100 million. That's stupid money. Why did he do this? How did he do this? By staying true to himself and being extremely consistent. Consistency, clarity, and honesty allowed Joe Rogan to build an empire that has not been rivaled on this platform. And then he took it all and ran away. Because he could. Because he could afford to. And now people at his new company have it out for him. They want to get rid of him. But guess what? They can't. They can't because he is too valuable. That's inspiring. That is inspiring to me. This is Conor McGregor. I think that goal setting is important for several reasons. Not the least of which is, like I said earlier, it allows you the opportunity to reclaim some portion of your life, some bit of time. And time, as is so often in cliche fashion noted, is something you can't buy. Time is all that we really have. Time is irreplaceable. You can't buy it. And because you can't buy it, you have to do the best you can with it. Setting goals allows us to focus on things which are important. Allows us to wriggle away from those things which bring us down on a daily basis. Maybe you don't like your job. Maybe you don't like your roommate. Maybe your car sucks. Maybe you don't have a car. These things wear us down slowly. Take us further and further away from what it means to be human. And like we saw earlier, the goal-setting process is an extremely human and humanistic process. Goal-setting is something that people need. They need it because it reminds them they are human. We need it. I need it because it reminds me that I'm human, that the things I'm doing are worthwhile, that the things I'm aiming for are worth attaining, are worth fighting for. And I think that's important. And here we have 18 of my writing goals for the year. The first 4 there are related to novels that I have in some stage of development. The horror novel there, that is the first thing there. Back in 2017, I completed a short novella length horror novel that I've never redrafted. There are a couple big holes in it that I just don't know what I'm doing with it. But what that means is I just have to pull it up and read through it and see if anything comes to me. Ruminate on it for a little bit, because it's been years now that it's just been sitting there. The second one is in 2019, I believe. 2018 into 2019, maybe. I don't remember. I started a novel about a family that is in my mind's eye, Horatio. It is something like what Faulkner does with Southern families, but for the Midwest. And it circles around the idea of hauntology, something that I find extremely fascinating. The third novel there is something that I started this year. I believe that I am about halfway through with it. Or no, I started, I guess, technically last calendar year, within the last year. It is a novel about a stripper. And it has quirks. The strategy that I was employing for that novel was that I was not having a word count for myself, not having a time limit for myself. I was sitting down to write, trying to paint a picture with words and make myself laugh. When I would sit down, I would paint a picture, make myself laugh, and then finish my writing for the day. That was it. That was my strategy for that novel. And it worked pretty well for a while, but I got thrown off. This last year has been rough from a work standpoint. So, and that has really sort of, I am realizing now, broken me down sort of all around. Not to be melodramatic, but I don't have a whole lot of energy or focus lately, and that is something, there's no excuse for that. I have to work on that. I have had for over a decade now, an idea for a fantasy novel in my mind, and I have just sort of realized that, what I have to do is I have to outline this. I have to go ahead and assume the practices that are normally deployed by fantasy writers and work with an outline, because that is the way that you do world building. And world building is something with which I am not particularly familiar as a writer. The next thing is to win a contest. I do not mean to toot my own horn, but toot, toot. I am good enough a writer to win a contest here or there. I am. I have that type of confidence. I have heard from enough of my quote-unquote colleagues that I have at least that type of skill. Next, we have mainly a lot of work goals. And what I mean by that is that it is just about getting the elbow grease and going to town. I want to write 12 creative nonfiction pieces. A lot of those might end up finding their way onto my Patreon for Strip Cover Lit. The next goal is one of those nefarious, nebulous goals, research residencies. This goal in and of itself does not mean a goddamn thing. This is not a smart goal at all. And why do I know that? Because if I sat down and I typed writers' residencies into Google and I read the titles of the first 3 websites that pop up, I could consider my research residencies goal done. So it's a bad goal, but I've just got to get it out there and start on it. Writers' residencies are something that I want to become a little bit more familiar with, and hope that someday I could find myself in one for, if even one of these ones that's just 6 months. I've gotten myself to a place in life right now where I could embark upon that journey. Tolstoy to 30K, that sounds like a completely nonsensical goal, but I have an idea. I have an extremely experimental novella, I would say, called Tolstoy Tastes Like Strawberries. And I want to get that to 30,000 words. I think it's around the 12,000 word mark right now. And it's different. It is a different type of novella, writing project in general. It is very stream of consciousness and very broken consciousness. So I am excited to get back to that. That property right there is probably 13 years old, and there's the Tornado Sirens, because this is the first Wednesday of the month, isn't it? Okay, I want to start a new novel this month, or this year. I am not sure exactly what direction that is to go in, but that is one of the things I want to do. I want to write 100 poems. This means essentially I am going to have to write poems at the clip of 2 per week. I want to write 25 short stories, 25 flash fictions, which means basically I have to write 2 of each of those per month. I want to write 12 essays. These are things which are almost definitely going to find their way onto my Strip Coverlet Patreon. I want to write 1 essay on Stoicism. I want to write 3 essays on craft. I want to write 1 essay on alcoholism, basically. Not alcohol, but alcoholism. 1 essay on haikus, and 1 essay on Ernest Hemingway. Those are just 18 of the 50 goals that I have set for my writer's life here in 2021. But like I said, this is something that I want to do is I want to exhibit this list of goals here on the channel because these are the things that I think I can express through my YouTube videos on this channel and really sort of chart throughout the year with you guys. And here are a handful of my education goals for the year. Learn 100 words, learn 100 words of Spanish, learn 100 words of German, learn 100 words of French. I really have to... I will never be in a position where I have to know German, Spanish, or French. I'm just not going to. That is not the life that I lead. That is not where I will end up in life. So, will these become irrelevant goals? I don't think so, because the way that I envision these goals as they pertain to my life is as they pertain to my writer's life. And in that, I believe that words are tools. Each different word you have, each different concept that you can visualize is another tool in your toolbox that allows you to further explicate a story on the page. And for that reason, despite the fact that I will never have to know Spanish, German, or French, I believe to me that these words are necessary. I do not act that way, however, because this has been part of my list of education goals for years and years and years, and I have never, ever done it. I have never followed through. I have never been successful with this part of my goals. Now, if you look at this list, there are no... one thing that you might expect to find on a list such as this is, OMG, LOL, I want to finish 50 books this year. That is not part of my list because I don't think that's helpful. I really don't. Because what it does, what you can do, what I have done, is that I have set goals like that, and then I pick up, you know, a little 50-page pamphlet book novella, and oh, that counts as a book, doesn't it? And it deters you from reading something such as Anna Karenina. You know, it deters you from reading the bigger things. So for me, I don't think that those goals are helpful. What there are here are a couple other reading goals that I'll get to a little bit later, but I want to work on my skills of memorization as well, because I think one of the things that really helps me from time to time is having with me at all times, I Died for Beauty. That is an Emily Dickinson poem that I have memorized, and I always have it with me, and if I ever need a poem, it is there for me. And because it's been there for me, and because, yes, I have needed it, that is a poem that has so much use for me. I am able to interpret that poem and employ that poem in so many different fashions, so many different facets, so many different fashions, that it has become something that I can sit down and cherish. And because of that, I want to memorize 2 of Shakespeare's sonnets. I want to memorize 2 more of Emily Dickinson's poems. I want to memorize a William Wordsworth poem. I want to memorize a Basho poem, which is a sonnet. And I want to memorize 1 Shakespeare quote. I would like to have at my employ at all times the quote, the to be or not to be speech. But I don't know if I'll get there. That's actually a pretty big one. I also want to memorize a Hemingway quote. That's a little bit later in the list there. I also want to learn 10 words of American Sign Language. But now we're going to get into some of the actual reading goals. I want to finish the Leonardo biography that I have started on this channel, and I have started that really long for. That is a book that is very interesting to me, and it is very useful, I think, when you're looking at the world as a writer, when you're looking at the world as an artist. So that is useful to me. I hope by finishing that book, I can finish that series and hopefully make something of use for someone else out on the internet who may or may not who may happen along that series. I also want to read one Sam Harris book. I want to read one Christopher Hitchens book. I want to finish the Ibsen plays that I have. I want to read one Nietzsche. I think Thus Spake Zarathustra is the one that I want to get through, but I am not 100% sure. There is a lot of Nietzsche, and it goes a lot of different places. So we will see as far as that is concerned. With all of these things, I hope to make all of them part of the channel, but none more so than that last goal there. Read Meditations. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I most certainly want to have a series here on the channel where I talk about Meditations by Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism, things like that. And the other one that I have not talked about here yet is read 100 Wikipedia articles. I know I give Wikipedia a bad time, a little bit of strife from time to time when speaking about Wikipedia in general. And that is basically academic elitism. There's no reason to do that. Wikipedia is pretty much as standard bearer of knowledge as you will find anywhere. I mean, where else are you going to go for it? Anywhere you go for knowledge, anywhere you go, you're going to have opinion thrown in. And the only quote-unquote inaccuracies on Wikipedia are going to be someone's opinions. And you might as well at least... Look, one thing that Wikipedia is great for is the citations at the bottom of each page. So why not go there, and I will find, if nothing else, when something comes into question, I will have a source that I can go back, find, and really search out what the truth may or may not be on any of those articles. And what it also helps me do is it also helps me... There was a summer... back in 2011, 2012, where I just went down, I sat down and I read a Wikipedia article a day, basically. And it led me through all sorts of things that I never knew I wanted to know. And I think that is one of the goals of education in general, is general exposure to things that you didn't know. Here are my fitness goals for the year. I want to be able to bench press 375 pounds by the time 2022 comes along. Right now, I am routinely pressing 315, but that is not for reps. But I do get it up fairly easily. I think right now my bench press max would probably be around the 330-pound mark, judging by how 315 feels. I want to be able to deadlift 505 pounds. To get there, I'm going to have to get a lot more consistent with doing it. I'm going to have to get a lot more consistent with the... there is a certain type of endurance that comes from being able to deadlift, and I have to build that endurance up. I want to be able to squat 405 pounds. I want to be able to bench press 225 pounds for 30 reps. Right now, I am consistently getting 12 at the end of a workout. That is by doing 5, 5, 5, 3, 2, 1, basically the workout, and then the reps at 225, I'll get 12-ish. So I think that is definitely attainable. I want to be able to do 35 reps on deadlift with 225 pounds. That is going to take a great deal of endurance. That is going to be a hell of a haul. I did one time 15 reps with 315 pounds, and I was pretty sure that I died around rep number 8. So 35 reps with 225 pounds. 225 pounds, especially with the straps, and I know a lot of people don't use straps, right? But then really, if you don't use straps, your deadlift is only as strong as your grip strength. And your grip strength should not be the greatest muscle that you're training. I don't think. So I want to be able to do 35 reps on deadlift with 225 pounds. I want to be able to do 30 consecutive dips. I want to be able to do 15 consecutive pull-ups. I want to have run 225 miles in some form, fashion, or shape. That includes cross-country, that includes on a track, that includes on a treadmill, etc. I want to have a 45-mile month, a month where I run 45 miles. I want to have a sub 6-minute mile. That is going to be very difficult. Right now, I can run an 8-something minute mile. I'm going to have to lose a lot of weight if I do decide to, if I do get in the shape to run a sub 6-minute mile. I want to do 50 100-meter dashes, and this is again over the course of the year. I don't want to go out one day and do 50 100-meter dashes. That is not at all what I mean. I want to run a 5K. I want to run a 10K. I want at least 60 miles of that 225 to be outdoors. That's going to be a fairly easy goal to accomplish so long as I do this summer the workouts that I did last summer. I want to be able to dumbbell bench 125-pound dumbbells. That is a 125-pound dumbbell in each hand. I want to get back to being able to do dumbbell snatches with 100s. That is being able to do heavy snatches to a decent form. I don't do the whole butthole puckering on the floor. I am not that dexterous. I am not that flexible. But with a decent form, when I am able to do dumbbell snatches with heavy weights, that is when I feel in the best shape. When I can steadily do heavy dumbbell snatches. I want to be able to do one pull-up with a 45-pound weight attached to, I've got a weight belt that has a chain, and you run the weights through the chain. I want to be able to do one pull-up with 45 pounds. I have done that in my life. I want to get back to that place. I want to be able to do one dip with 90 pounds. I have done dips with 135 pounds plus in the past. I don't think that's very healthy. That is not great for your joints. So I think I'm going to go ahead and skip that level of weight. But I think that doing it with 90 pounds, I can do it in a responsible fashion. And that's a good deal of weight to be able to put on a dip. Here are my financial goals for the year. That first one there, 34% total portfolio growth. What that means is growth in the total, basically the way I'm counting that is growth in the total monies that I have accrued. And 34% is a very ambitious goal, but the way I did that is I looked at the dollar amount, set the dollar amount that I want to be at, and worked backwards to find what percent that was. That is not the way you're supposed to do it. If you were looking at the market, the average market return is somewhere between 7 and 11% per year. So I am going to have to grow much, much faster, much greater than the market itself. But fortunately, something that will make that a little bit easier to attain is the fact that when I say total portfolio growth, I'm talking about total assets. So I'm talking about cash as well. So by talking about cash as well, the money that I'm pulling in from my job, I am saving. Look, it's not what you make, it's what you keep, right? That is the old saying. It's not what you make, it's what you keep. So the more that I can pull in and keep, even if I am just saving a penny saved is a penny earned, right? Benjamin Franklin. So the more that I can keep, the greater the percentage grows, right? So I am not counting that simply as my money in the market. I am counting that as my monies in general. Along those lines, I want to identify 5 speculative plays, 5 growth plays, and 5 dividend plays. My concept for the number of stocks and what diversification means, the number of stocks you should own and what diversification means is a little bit different than what you're going to find in most places. I think that a lot of people say diversification means as long as I hold good businesses, I can hold as many of them as I want. I think that Jeremy from Financial Education, he says if you have $10,000, you should only have 1 to 2 stocks. If you have $30,000, you should have 3 stocks to 4 stocks to 5 stocks. Up to $100,000, you can have up 10 stocks. That doesn't make much sense to me, because what that means is that you are choosing where to allocate your funds based on the amount of funds you have. If, for example, AT&T, which has a very high yield right now, and it seems to be a stable business, a little bit risky because of the debt that the company has, but I'm going a little too much into inside baseball here. What I'm talking about is, so long as I have identified a lot of companies that I want to own, I will have my monthly resources for investing to put into whichever stock is the greatest deal at that time. Jim Cramer was famous for saying there's always a bull market somewhere. Well, guess what? I don't want to invest in bull markets because that's how you lose money. You invest low and sell high, right? A bull market is high. So there is also there's always a bear market somewhere. You want to invest your money in the bear market because the bear market is simply behind where it should be. It is an undervalued stock. That same example that I gave earlier, AT&T, I think at this time is an undervalued stock. I think, in my opinion, it is someplace decent to put your money while you're getting a 7% yield through the dividend. If that stock ran up to $37 tomorrow, and the only two stocks that I had were Tesla and AT&T, I can't, through my brokerage, I cannot buy a fractional share. My monthly investing budget is less than the $750-ish which Tesla currently costs. So I would have to put my money into AT&T if I were playing by Jeremy's rules. If I have different businesses that I do like and in which I want to invest, so long as I have those businesses identified, I can go through the list and find which is the best deal at that time. I think that's the right way to do it. Along those that same note, that next, I'm sort of jumping around this list here. I want to transfer my brokerage. The investing fees at this brokerage that I am currently at are just astronomical. I'm going through Commerce Bank, and it's a joke. So I've got to get out of there. The minute the world opens back up after pandy time, I'm going to be getting into a different brokerage. I want to have a part-time job. I had a part-time job last year. The job at which I currently work is right across the street from a Dollar General. And I got a job at the Dollar General for 2-ish months, maybe 3 months. I can't remember exactly. Hopefully I get my W-2 from there. I haven't yet. But basically what would happen is I would get off of my job and I would walk across the street and work there for 4 hours. A couple days a week, that's all it was. But it earned me some extra money. It got me some extra experience. I got out and got to experience a different company, which is something that's always different, always interesting. Moving on, I want to have a $500 numismatics portfolio. If you don't know what that means, ask me and I will, if you want, I will do a video where I try to explain what a numismatics portfolio is, or maybe I'll just answer your question. I'm not sure how much financial stuff I want to get into on this channel. The next is a run of things in which I would like to invest. I want to own my 100th share of AT&T. I want to own my 50th share of Disney. I want to own my 100th share of Planet 13, PLNHF. It is a cannabis play, a retail cannabis play. Anyone who is familiar with Jeremy from Financial Education knows what that stock is. I want to own my 50th share of Microsoft. I think that these are all stocks which are decent plays. I think that they are all stocks which have a bright future. And if I can get around to owning those share numbers of those different stocks, that I will be in a good place moving forward. I want to own a diamond. I want to own a ruby. I want to own a sapphire. I want to own some gold. I want to own platinum. And I want to own a cryptocurrency. with the exception of diamonds. I do own a couple diamonds, but it's nothing to write home about. When Sears was going under, I bought a couple diamonds there at 80% discount. So it's just something interesting to have. It's nothing really worth having. I'm not going to get the value out of them that they go for at retail. But it's just something interesting to have. I think that there is some speculation on a broader market since the pandemic started. I don't know where this is coming from, but in my YouTube suggested feed, all of a sudden, I am getting suggested all of these videos about sports card investing and people who are investing in sports cards and the flipping that they can do on eBay and things like that. And I watched one of these videos. There was a Patrick Mahomes card that went for $125,000. A Michael Jordan rookie card that went for like $200,000. That is insane. I'm not getting into that. But what that explicates to me is that there is a broader market sense and sensibility coming for what it means to be an investor. People who are willing to drop $200,000 on a basketball card are viewing money and assets in a different sense than would have casually been talked about even 3 years ago. That's where crypto comes into play too. I want to have my current student loans. My current student loans are murdering me from a financial sense, and I want to collect $1,000 in dividends, which is going to take. It's going to take a little bit of luck. It's going to take a little bit of. What I mean by luck is, if something else, which is a standard investment, drops to the point that AT&T is at now, where it pays a 7% yield, then maybe I'll get there. I am going to collect at this point nowhere near $1,000 in dividends, but I think that it is a goal that is almost attainable with a little bit of luck and some persistence. So here we get in a little bit to the Joe Roganing. These are my goals for my book channel, Strip Cover Lit. I want to hit 10,000 subscribers. That is going to be very difficult to do. It is currently 1,800 subscribers away. I am at 8,200 subscribers. I think exactly 8,200. And that is really the one personal, selfish goal that I have on here. The rest of it is work. The rest of it is stuff that I want to do as a YouTuber, not as a person to have a goal. That 10,000 subs is something that would be very nice to be able to say that I have. I want to do a top novels playlist, a top short story playlist, and a top poems playlist. Again, I'm going to be sort of jumping around here. I kind of threw this up here in haphazard fashion. I want to do the top novels playlist. Is going to be my top 25 novels, and I'm going to talk about basically 3 novels per episode. My top short stories playlist is going over 50 short stories, and I'll go over about 3 short stories per episode. And my top poems playlist is 100 poems. So these are different playlists that I want to put together for my Strip Cover Lit channel. I want to have 1,100 videos. Right now, I think I'm going to have to. So what I'm doing is I'm posting 3 videos per week per channel. I'm going to have to up that. I'm going to have to hit more. I'm going to have to average more than 3 videos per week in order to hit 1,100 videos on that channel by the end of 2021. I want to create an intro. I don't have an intro on the channel. I am trying to get back to creating higher quality content for that channel, in that I am not just setting my phone up and going, but right now that is what I'm going to have to stick with for a little while because of basically just time constraints. I've got to get ahead of a production schedule, in order to create the breathing room for myself to create higher quality content. I want to do 3 video essays. I think that there are not enough video essays on the book part of YouTube. If you want to look at video essays, there are so many high quality movie video essay channels that it's ridiculous. So I want to be able to create video essays for books. Now, here's the tricky part. When you're doing it for movies, it's easy because you get to roll parts of the movies in the background like B-roll. You get to have the parts of the movie that you're talking about on display while you're talking about it. This is not the case with books. So I don't know what I'm going to do as far as the visual representation goes. I want to make a video called Why Bukowski. I have had this video in the back of my mind for so long that it is painful. I want to make a video called 5 Things About Hemingway. What things? Well, you'll find out when I make the video, but it should be a pretty good one. I want to make a Stephen King video, which is basically where to start with Stephen King, in my opinion. I have a lot of that video written out, but again, it is sort of a video essay format, but that's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about video essays. When I'm talking about video essays, what I'm talking about for the book part of YouTube is basically as if I were given the homework to write an essay about Madame Bovary or whatever it is. This is not Why Bukowski. Why Bukowski centers around, why do I like Bukowski? So many people have asked me that question. What do you see in Charles Bukowski? And I want to be able to explicate that in a video. The 5 things about Hemingway are basically biographical things. The Where to Start with Stephen King is, in my opinion, the 5 books that you should read first when attempting to read Stephen King. Speaking of Stephen King, I have formulated a series for It by Stephen King. I'm going to go back and read It, basically 30-ish pages at a time, and I've got a formula for the production value that's going to go into that, and it should be pretty good. I've just got to get ahead, like I say, of the production. That is the way that I have to sit down and motor through a whole lot of work in very little time in order to create some breathing room for myself. I want to get my Alone with Bukowski series to 30 videos. That is a read-along for Bukowski that I am doing on Strip Cover Lit that I abandoned. I just abandoned it. But I think it's a series that has some promise. There are Emily Dickinson videos that I want to do. I want to create a series that goes through Emily Dickinson. At first I was conceptualizing this as poem by poem. I don't think I want to do that. I think I'm going to start with the heavy hitters, because that's the way it should be. I'm going to start with the heavy hitters and go from there. See which poems are worthy of an episode, because unless I live to 1,000 years old, doing all of these things and creating a 1,775-part series for Emily Dickinson is really not very realistic. I want to do 3 rant videos. I want to script a Charles Bukowski biography. I want to script an Ernest Hemingway biography. I want to script a video essay called What is Lit? I want to finish my bookshelf tours, and I want to script a video called Magic of Said. Now, those last few, script an Ernest Hemingway biography, script a Bukowski biography, script a What is Lit video, and script The Magic of Said. What that means is that I do not have to produce those videos this year, so long as I have a draft of a script for them. That is something I have to get better at doing. So I think that if I take the pressure off of myself for having to create the videos, maybe I will not pressure myself into a downward spiral where I completely shut off the fact that I need to make that Hemingway biography. And I will just sort of allow myself to discover how to do it versus pressuring myself into something that I don't know what I'm doing, because I am not a tech guy, and it's going to take a great deal more of tech knowledge than I have technology knowledge than I have in order to create those videos. And finally, here we go. The goals that I have for this channel right here. Number 1, the selfish goal. I want to hit 1,000 subscribers. This channel has grown a little bit faster than I figured it was going to, especially for a while there. I was making content that I was in a very small box, I think. I don't know how else to say that. But I was not growing at all. And recently, since September-ish, I have been growing a little bit faster. I would like to reach 1,000 subscribers on this channel. The next one, 37... let me just go this direction. 300 video library. Again, in order to reach this goal, I will have to create more than the obligatory 3 videos per week. So, I'm going to have to really get on that. I want to create an intro for this channel as well, which will take the production quality on this channel up quite a bit. I want to create a banner for this page. I want to buy and learn Adobe. I am, again, not a tech guy, so this is going to be difficult for me. As will be doing 3 interviews, I want to be able to do interviews on this channel from time to time. I want to bring other people onto the channel, whether that is in person, which is impossible-ish right now, but also video interviews through the interweb, through the power of the interweb. Again, I want to script a biography on this channel. I want to script a biography on Leonardo. A good deal of that will become inspired from the Walter Isaacson series that is going on. But I'm going to try to bring in other... I have the Vasari biography, for example, and just a myriad of online resources that I'm going to try to pull into play for that Leonardo biography. I want to get my... story time playlist up to 27 episodes. I've got at least 27 stories in me from different parts in time. I want to have my movie review playlist to 15. I want to have my Ask Adrian Anything series to 15. Or no. I want to do 27 episodes of story time. I want to review 15 movies. This is in the future. This is not including the library that I have. I want to have 15 new episodes of Ask Adrian Anything. So, again, if you have any questions to ask me, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, because I need questions for that series. The next goal is a little bit ambitious because I don't know if movies are a thing anymore, but in hopes that they are, I want to be able to do 37 movie trailer reviews. I think that those are things which are a little bit throwaway, but they do keep me abreast of what is coming out in the theaters, assuming that theaters are still a thing. I want to start reviewing music albums on the channel, and I want to get 3 of them done this year. I have a format in mind that is a little bit different. It is something that I think is very doable, but I just have to get off my ass and do it. Again, on this channel, I want to do 6 video essays. I am not sure what that looks like. I'm not sure what that looks like on this channel. I am not sure exactly what the essays will be over. It is possible that there will be some movies thrown in, but I will have to, again, do a great deal of learning as far as what it means to put together a B-roll from a movie. There are Marvel videos that I want to make. For example, casting Cyclops. I want to do a video over Wolverine's Rogues Gallery. I want to do a video over Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. I think that those are things which, they're interesting to me. They're things that I've enjoyed since I was a child, so being able to put some type of creative emphasis on those things would be interesting to me. I want to finish the Leonardo series. I want to finish the series that I'm going to start on Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I want to finish a series on Free Will by Sam Harris. This is a book that I have read. I don't think I agree very much with Sam Harris through the course of that book, but it's definitely something that provides talking points. I want to finish a series on the 7 habits of highly effective people. I think that is something that would be useful to have on the channel. But again, this is something that I want to be able to do with a little bit more of a higher level of production value than just me sitting in front of my phone talking. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to have to learn some stuff along the way. I want to ideate 3 new series to have on the channel, and I want to ideate a series on freedom of speech. This is, to me, a throwback series. This is a throwback idea. The way that I got involved very heavily with YouTube back in 2011-ish was as I was discovering myself as an atheist, and there was a crew of atheists on YouTube at that time that really took up the helm for things like freedom of speech, and a lot of that is missing anymore. And I want to be able to create a series. I have to conceptualize this, I have to draft this, I have to dream this up. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be, for me, a throwback series to those good old days when there was a ragtag group of thinkers running around and trying to redefine things, if for no one else than themselves. And I want to do that with freedom of speech. So those are a few of the goals that I have for this channel. Those are a few of the goals that I have in my life for the year of 2021. I am interested to hear from you, especially if you made it this far. I am interested to hear from you in the comments section about some of your goals for this year and how you plan on achieving them. This is something that I am assuming I am able to, at some point, build community around this channel, which I'm starting to a little bit. Assuming that I'm able to build community around this channel, I would like for this to be sort of a yearly event for communities on YouTube in general. I'm doing my part to create that. Again, hearkening back to those opening slides, I think that goal setting is a very valuable practice, and I think that people, from personal experience, I think that people in general benefit greatly from having goals set, even if they don't accomplish them. So this is what my 2021 is like. Tell me about yours.